Good morning. My name is Anthony Johnson. Welcome to my podcast, The Other Side. Today I have with me a very distinguished guest, a unique, a wise, and intelligent young man. I say a great, great young man in the person of Ambassador Devon Rolle. Mr. Rolle, welcome to The Other Side. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, sir. It is an honor and a privilege to be with you. You are someone who I've watched over the many years, who have contributed greatly to national development, and your story and testimony is so powerful. It is an honor for me to be here.
Wow. Ambassador, who are you? Who are you? Tell our audience who you are. Please tell us who you are.
Well, okay, my name is Devon Rolle, the oldest son of Bishop Alfonso Rolle and Lura Rolle, my loving parents who recently passed, by the way, about a year ago. They passed within 8 months of each other.
Oh, my sympathy.
And I miss them dearly. And but they raised me and my brothers in a peculiar way. They raised us in the fear of the Lord, and it wasn't just lip service. We had to live what we sang, live what we preach, and they were enforcers of discipline and Christian principles. I'm grateful for it. It didn't feel so pleasurable back then. However, I'm grateful for the training that we received because it made us the men who we are today. At 7 years old, I started guitar lessons, which was a pivotal point in my life. My mother would say to my father, "This boy is always strumming something around the house," and she went and begged persons to teach me, and everyone said no until this elderly Seventh-day Adventist teacher, Miss Alexander.
Wow.
I will appreciate her and honor her for the rest of my life. She took a chance and said, "Yes, I'll take him. He's the youngest person I've ever taught." So I went to music lessons with her, and the first couple of weeks were trialsome because every time she gave me something to do, I would just bang on the guitar.
Wow.
And she said, "I never seen somebody want to play so badly."
Wow.
So she came back and reluctantly she taught me 3 chords. From that lesson, I started playing in church the next week.
Wow.
And Miss Alexander started bringing people to watch me play because she said, "This boy has an air that I can't understand. How is he hearing these movements and changes so easily?" So that began my journey in music. Most people who know me over the years know me for my musical contribution. I play several instruments. I worked from a teenager. I worked with many churches and choirs, directing, leading, teaching. And at the same time, my academic focus was being pushed by my parents, and so that put a desire to me to actually, I wanted to be the combination of a lawyer and a contemporary musician. And so that, from an academic standpoint, I was pursuing those goals, and at the same time working very intensely in ministry. My father and my mother had a love for people. They were always entertaining strangers, always feeding people. Folks would always sleep over. I know what it is to for long periods sleep on the floor because we're entertaining guests and taking care of folks. And so that put a desire for community in my heart, a desire to help people in my heart. Same with my brothers. And that kind of shaped my life. So when I went to college and when I went off to university, that drive to love people, to work with a spirit of excellence was inside of me. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in Barbados on top of the hill near the dorms, and I heard a voice speak to me concerning my future. And I'm about to make the shift to go into law school.
Wow.
And this voice says to me, "I'm calling you to do ministry." I'm like, at this point? And it was confusing. And I had to make some really tough decisions. At that point, I had already met my wife today. She was my girlfriend then, Yolanda Christina Rolle. And I said to her what I heard. I said, "I heard God saying that He's calling me to go into ministry."
Wow.
Now, the good thing about it is I didn't have to make too great a departure from career and pursuits because she was studying law, and so obviously there was going to be an amalgamation. And interestingly enough, the name of the law firm that she now runs, I heard it from way back there in school.
Wow.
And I said it to her, and so together she said, "But if God's telling you to do it," she even as a young girl, she gave me her blessing. She said, "Pursue what He's given you to do." which really is the only reason I came back home to the Bahamas, because I had an opportunity with an investment banker who came from New York to Barbados during my, I think, second semester. His name is Sam Salter.
Okay.
He said he had a dream. And in this dream, he saw himself, even though he was an investment banker, doing ministry with a lot of black people.
Wow.
So in his mind, he thought he was supposed to go to Africa. No call came from Africa. A door opened in Barbados just where I was in school. Now, watch the interesting part of this. That door was a God move for both him and me, because here it is, I'm running out of money. And I know things are rough back home, so I'm not trying to be a burden to my parents.
Yes.
And I said, God, I started praying. I said, God, I need an opportunity. And you know, the Bible says a man's gift shall make room for him. What can I do? I can play instruments.
Yes.
So on the phone, when he moves to Barbados, he and I talk on the phone for 20 minutes about God, about life, about purpose, because I had already started, just before I went to university, I started my group called Barak, which became a national...
Oh, Barak.
Yes, sir.
Barak, yes, Barak.
I started Barak in January of 1996, months before I went to university.
Okay, I know Barak.
You know Barak?
Yes, yes. During the time of my kids, yes, you were huge. It's still huge. Wow.
It was a phenomenal meteoric takeoff.
Wow.
But let me go back to Barak before I go back to university. In January of 1996, on the 15th of January, which is, I think, Martin Luther King's birthday, was when I started Barak. 6 weeks later, we recorded our first single. Now, let me tell you this is crazy, because I'm actually working part-time in the studio. And the owner of the studio, Greg White, permits me to come in and do a recording. The people who I have, I only just met most of them weeks before. So we come in and record this song called Nothing But Mercy. I go to, I think it was Town Center Mall that was having this grand opening. Vaughn Miller's there. And I say to him, would you just listen to this and tell me what you think? I drive off from Town Center Mall, and within minutes, I hear my song on the air. I'm like, what is he doing? I told him, just listen. Brother Johnson, it took off instantly. People started calling the radio station, who is this? Is it John P? Is it Kirk Franklin? And I called him quickly. I said, what are you doing? He said, this is too good. I have to play it down.
My goodness.
I pleaded with him. I said, do me a favor. You already played it. I didn't want you to play it. Don't say who it is. Cause behaviors for the next several weeks to try to figure who it is. And for weeks, people said every big name artist in the States, they thought we were them. So that when he said, no, this is a local artist, Devon Rolle, his brothers and Barak, the Bahamians could not believe it.
My goodness.
Go ahead, sir.
Let me ask you. So you, Ambassador, you found your purpose at a very young age.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that.
So, okay. Wow. You are a successful man. And I visited your church. Honestly, I was impressed.
Wow.
I was impressed, okay? I'm going to say something, Pastor, right now.
Yes, sir.
For the past years, let's say for 7 years, I went to funerals at church. I was always a person in church all my life.
Right.
Before my kids got sick and even after. But I went through a period in my life where I just moved myself away from church.
Right.
Because I wanted to see something. The first time in years, I stepped into a church service. I'm not talking about a funeral. Okay? Was the Sunday when you were the guest pastor at Chapel on the last a few weeks ago.
About 6 weeks ago, yes.
When I listened to you as you minister to the church, I was so touched. I say, wow. I say, this man. I say exactly what I want to hear from a pastor. I say, this man is saying it. And he's feeding his people. So I rushed and I tried to get your number. I'm going to get your number. And yes, you and I spoke the Monday. And I said, I'm going to come to your church. I came to your church the next Sunday. And honestly, when I came to your church, Ambassador,
that's fine.
Okay,
either's fine.
When I just observed, I was touched, I was moved by all of the beautiful music and everything. But I was impressed as to what I saw. Your entire family plays music. Yeah, I mean, you guys are beautiful, and the church, they are all, I mean, excited. And but the most important thing I noticed something. The offering. Okay, but what you did, all of your members, everybody that comes to your church, you do everything to empower those people, which is so important. You empower your people. You feed them in every aspect of life, physically, emotionally, mentally, financially, in every aspect. You feed your people. That is what I was looking for in a pastor. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, let me see how you're feeding the sheep. Don't just go to church and open the church on Sunday morning. Okay, on Sunday morning for a few hours, and then the rest of the week is spent. You are truly a man of God. See, I believe that God has allowed me to go through some experiences in my life.
Yes.
That at this point, I can look through people from a spiritual perspective. Right. I want to ask you a question. I want you to elaborate on what I said just now, but I want to ask you a question. The question is this, Pastor. How do you see the Bahamas today spiritually?
Sir, that's a big question. That was a very, very big question. All right. I'll try to be succinct. I have grave concerns about where we are spiritually. And I'll be honest with you, the grave concerns that I have really motivates me to be closer with God and to have a real experience with Him and to only say to His people the things that He's leading me to say. I've been in a position all my life. That has exposed me to a lot of the good and a lot of the ugly. So I have seen, I've had access to see backstage, back of the pulpit, and get into some inner spaces of a lot of ministers who are prominent and who are out front, and for many, I won't call them names, what you see out front of the pulpit is not who they are behind closed doors.
Yes.
And that had a traumatic effect on me.
Yes.
And I've said this for years. Had I not had a real encounter with God for myself, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't even want anything to do with ministry.
Wow.
I would have pursued a career in music and in law and just go and live a happy life by myself.
Wow.
But because of the upbringing I've had, my life, I have turned down so many opportunities to make big money because it wasn't righteous, and because I didn't think it would allow me to be the person character-wise to have effective ministry. So, for example, my whole life when I was in university, I was being offered jobs to do a whole lot of secular stuff. I turned them all down. I had no money.
Wow.
On principle, I turned it down.
I like that.
I came back home. The same thing for years. Tremendous opportunities. Matter of fact, when I came back home, believing that God sent me back home, and the same investor I told you about, multimillionaire. Ebony Magazine had a story with him where he became a millionaire at 21. Me and him partnered in the church. He wanted me to do some things in business. I said, sir, I have to go. God has called me to go home.
Wow.
And he was like, are you serious? I think the reason that the spirituality in our country is not where it should be is because too many of the leaders are materially driven. And that's in the church, that's in the political arena, that's also in the business arena. The worst thing you can ever become is a slave to money.
Wow. Let money be
your master.
Yes, your master.
Because it's so interesting. I think it's in Matthew 5.
Wow.
Jesus speaking directly, he's in red. He says there are only two gods in this world. Now, this got my attention when I was reading it, because I'm expecting to hear the God of the Bible, Abraham.
You teach me something now. Come on.
And I was expecting to hear on the other end, Lucifer. No. He does not consider Lucifer a god in this world. He says there are two gods. There's the true and living God, and then there's the spirit of mammon, or the love for money, or the system of this world. I said, oh my goodness.
Wow.
You don't include the devil as a god of this world?
Wow.
No. So we lose our way spiritually when we don't look to Jehovah God as our source, as our provider, as our guide, and instead we pursue material gains. And here's what we miss, Brother Johnson. We miss that if God says, whatever you give for me in this life, He says you will receive 100-fold in this life and the next. We just need the faith and the patience to do what is right, and eventually God will expand us and go beyond our wildest imagination.
Folks, you hear folks? I want you to listen to what Ambassador Rolle is saying to us today. I want you to listen to this. This is, he's a unique man. Ambassador, you are a man under 50.
Yes, sir.
How are you? You're 21 or 22?
I'm 47.
You look like you're 21, 22. But I want to say something to you. Okay.
Yes, sir.
The Bahamas, we are celebrating 50 years of independence this year.
Yeah.
50 years.
Yes.
Now, we have made a little strive. I'm talking with a lot of people for material-wise.
Yes.
I want you to elaborate on both of them. But when it comes to the spiritual aspect, like you mentioned a while ago, could you please, and we need young people like yourself, under 50, young people under 50 to make plans for the next 50 years.
Yep.
I'm a little over 50. I'm a little over 50. I'm over 50.
You look good.
I'm here to share experience, wisdom with the younger folks. Could you elaborate on some of the things you feel I can help to embellish the lives of our young people to drive them to the next 50 years in the Bahamas?
The Bahamas is an incredible country. The late great Dr. Miles Monroe traveled the entire globe saying God lives in the Bahamas.
And it's right. That's right.
And I find no fault with the statement. Astronauts go into space and are in awe when they look down and see the fluorescent glow of our waters, and they talk about it. It's documented. And some say they even use it as a guide coming back into the Earth's atmosphere. So we are a peculiar nation called for, I believe, a peculiar purpose in the earth. If you look at what we have produced in every sphere of life, in terms of great politicians, great ministers of the gospel, like Dr. Monroe, who's traveled the world, like in sports now, we're just exploding athletically, and we've been doing so from a long time, from Sadura's time to now, with so few people, yet whenever we get an opportunity, we explode on the global scene. Now, the transition that we went through with the birthing of a black-led party in the 50s, Progressive Liberal Party, was significant. I think the birthing of that was God-led. I think breaking down the racial barrier and giving the average man the opportunity to vote and to have a voice, and then eventually in '67 take leadership of the government was huge. Our story has impacted people like Martin Luther King. I heard with my own two ears Jesse Jackson say he and Dr. King would fly to the Bahamas when they were discouraged. And the reason they came here, because they wanted to be in an environment where the people were led by black leaders. I think that is significant. I'm told by a gentleman who's still alive, I think he's still alive today, that Dr. King on his boat wrote the I Have a Dream speech. This country is phenomenal. I'll just drop this here too. I'm actually also informed that Martin Luther King was introduced to John F. Kennedy here in the Bahamas. I think it was by Penis Taylor.
Okay.
Why is God favoring this little country like this? Now, coming specifically to your question, which is huge. Yeah, what is happening now as we celebrate 50 years that possibly should not be happening? I believe that we have taken the blessing of God, which we have incorporated in probably the greatest preamble in the entire world, which is the preamble to our Constitution.
Yes.
We have grabbed hold of the favor of God, and now that we have come to a certain level of success and status, we have discarded him.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Which is dangerous, because there was never a need to achieve political success and discard God in the process. There was never a need, because we've achieved great academic status as well. We have Rhodes Scholars all over the world at this point now. But I think we sacrifice political leadership, educational prowess, financial independence, and we got the door open through our faith, mind you. And now that we're there, we've discarded the very reason why we've achieved the greatness.
Wow. Wow, oh my, so well said. Ambassador, let me ask this other question. And it leads right out of what you were saying just now.
Yeah.
What happened to the majority of our young men in our country today? What happened? What happened, please? And what can be done to embellish their lives again?
You're asking incredible questions, and I love them all. With our young men, I was talking about this just yesterday on a national platform. The reason we have now some serious social ills manifesting in our boys. One is we've been dealing now for 30, 40 years with an incessant gang situation. Our prison is too full for a country this small. The murder rate is too high, which is predominantly caused by young men. It's too high for a country that's 500,000 or less people. And then now we have a lot of young men and girls too who are questioning their identity, questioning their gender, and I was asked the same very question: why is this taking place?
Wow.
And the number one reason I believe is because of absentee fathers. Wow. Young men, it's one thing to teach someone something. The Jewish model of teaching, or the Hebraic model of teaching, was always not simply to go to a blackboard and write a lesson plan. Their model was always mentorship, which is why when Jesus chose his disciples, he went to several young men, most of them were teenagers, and he said to them, "Follow me," which was Jewish culture, because the culture was when you got to a certain age, you're supposed to find a mentor who you walk with to show you how to come into adulthood, how to come into manhood. We have our boys, the statistics now for the last 20 years have shown that the majority of babies being born are being born to teenage girls who are not even in committed relationships. The statistics now showing that the majority of households in the Bahamas today are now households that don't have a male head in the home. So how are the boys supposed to know how to handle their testosterone surge and this desire to be a man? Because we as teenagers we brag, "Oh, I'm a man now," but you have no model, you have no idea of what being a man is. So we have, and I've said this many years, we have boys in men's bodies, who have not been mentored in what it really means to be a real man, and this is causing a tremendous social ill in our country.
Wow, Pastor, you have gone deep. Let me, okay, you're on the same. I want you to just go and elaborate on something. Okay, so what, Ambassador? Tell me, what would you say to the institutions, schools, government ministries that is responsible for helping these young men? What would you say to them?
The first thing, Brother Johnson, what we must do is we must stop, one, exalting all of the negative. Why do we always put the guy handcuffed in chains on the front of the newspaper? Why don't we put the boy who was an A student on the front of the newspaper? Why don't we put the one who's doing the positive activity? Why don't we give him more media coverage? Because I have a quote that I believe has been inspired by God many years ago. Whatever is exalted will be reproduced. We keep exalting the negative and wonder why it's spreading.
Exactly.
If that's all I see, then that becomes my model. We need to stop the negative dialogue, always speaking so negatively about men. And I have to say to our women, you speak negatively about men, but truth is, for the last 5 or more decades, you've been raising the men. So the thing that you speak about so negatively, you've played a large part in terms of pouring into them. I'm not blaming you alone, because even if a relationship doesn't work out, guys, we should not abandon our responsibility to our children and to that home. Real men take care of their children.
Does the government play one role?
I'm gonna come to the okay. So from a governmental standpoint, I think we must embrace the church more. We must engage the church and try to empower not just the church but our nonprofit organizations that are committed to helping the growth and the development of young men. There are a lot of people, there are a lot of clubs, there are a lot of organizations who give their lives to doing this, but the only problem they have is that they don't have financial resources. And it's difficult when you have to go through all sorts of loops to say, look here, I want to impact 100 boys, I want to impact 200 boys, but I don't have the resources. If I get the help, I'll do it. We'll do the mentorship program. We'll show them the benefits of walking in spirituality and walking in faith. We just need a little help.
Wow, yeah, you're completely right. One thing I've noticed though, you have unique men and women,
Right.
brilliant, wise, caring, concerned men and women who want to reach out
Right.
to those young men and young women out there who can help build their lives.
Right.
But they are not given the opportunity
Right.
by the powers or leaders of these establishments. Why is it that we avoid people who can help?
But I tell you one thing we've done, I almost want to identify it as a curse. We have elevated partisan politics above almost everything in this country.
Wow.
And if there was a chief demon that keeps on stagnating progress, it is our blind allegiance to partisan politics. To the point where, because we identify with this color, I cannot say to my party, this is wrong, this is out of order. That's a problem. That means you have elevated your allegiance to partisan politics above possibly even God. You've made it an idol.
Wow.
I don't think you should love anything so much to the point that you cannot highlight and call it out for being wrong. Remember what I said, whatever is exalted will be reproduced. Whatever is tolerated will never be changed. There's a scripture that says, evil flourishes when righteous men remain silent.
Ambassador Rolle.
Yes, sir.
You are a brilliant man. You are wise. You are knowledgeable. You understand and you care about things. You care about this country. You care a lot about what's going on in this country.
I do.
Does the ministries or these private, does they call on you often? I want to say one thing first before you answer. What I see in our country, even the hotels or the major organizations that is in our country, businesses in our country, persons like yourself who have the ability to really to train or to help with attitudes,
Yes, sir.
with curtailing the minds of some of our
Yes,
people.
sir. It's good.
Why is it that they aren't calling on people like persons like yourself to speak to those young people or those their workers and stuff, the workers, let me say, to help to build those young people, because they don't understand. They're losing a lot of money with those, with those having the staff with those kinds of attitudes.
Sir, you are hitting the nail on the head.
Even when it comes to their performance on the job, when it comes to them being absent, from work, stealing on the job, all different.
Yes.
Some of these things can be, it can be sorted out, but it's like we have to bring people from away, everybody from away to talk to our people, and we pay them. But persons like yourself, and others in this country, we don't take time out to say, well, okay, who understand your people like you? No one from abroad can understand the people like you, because this is your culture. You understand your people.
I live here. Yes, sir.
And people, they respect you. I'm not saying to bring anybody.
Right, of course.
Okay, but I'm saying bring quality people who can help to teach values and worth to our people.
Yes.
And what happened, I believe that you will see a great change in our country. Yep. And I'm talking about not just the private business, but the government as well, and corporations.
Yes.
So could you elaborate on that for me, please?
I always want to give you an offering for saying that, sir. I would love to help more. I'm available to help more because I'm gravely concerned about the attitudinal disposition of our country. I was literally just saying to someone, the last time I remember us having a really positive push in the area of changing the attitude and mentality of the average Bahamian in terms of loving their country, loving their environment, was, I think, the late Clement Maynard did a Bahama hosting that kind of began to take off for a few years, but it's been a long time now. It's been almost 3 decades, and we have not had that kind of rehaul and say, you know what, we need to change our attitude. And because we are not focusing on attitudinal adjustment, a spirit of entitlement has crept in. And it's dangerous because I want to say to Bahamians, it is not just sun, sand, and sea why people always came here. As a young boy, I would often, and I lived way down in Angleston, and sometimes tourists would come that far, and if they were lost, I would walk out and tell them where to go. One time I remember they were so confused, I went in the vehicle and took them where they needed to go, and I think I either caught the bus or rode a bike back, and they were like, and the tourists would always say, how come everybody here talks about God? How come everybody's so nice? It was because our faith and our service and our work ethic was all tied together. And again, that's in the preamble.
Wow.
But we are not elevating this and teaching it as much as we need to. So government and private areas need to do more in terms of making sure that the attitude and the work spirit and the pride for our nation is elevated. And like you say, bring in folks who are credible to teach and inspire.
Ambassador, would it be possible?
Yes.
In the very, very near future for you to appear back on this show?
I want to.
So we can talk about the attitudes in our country, please, sir?
Please do.
Because you have, what I like about you, you are so open, you are wise. I believe that you have what it takes to really help change or curtail some of the things the negative impact in our society. I need you back on here. In fact, let me say, I would love for you,
sir,
to come back on and talk to
when you
talk
call,
to the
when you call, I'm here. I love God. I love my country. I love our people, and I want to see us do better. I mean, we have been benefited greatly over the last 5 decades as we get ready to celebrate our 50th anniversary. But there are some things that we're taking for granted. All hope is not lost, but every now and again, Scripture says in the book of Proverbs that the father who hates his son doesn't correct him, but the father who loves his son corrects him. And so every now and again, we need to be forced to take introspection, hear correction, and make adjustment. Hear correction and make the adjustments so that we can soar from one level to the next. And I think we are poised at this time to make such an introspection nationally.
Thank you. Now, I want you to give a lasting word to our people, the Bahamas, the Bahamian people.
Bahamian people, you are special in the eyes of God and also in my eyes. I think God has favored us greatly. We have survived much especially in recent times. We dealt with Hurricane Dorian, and right after Dorian, we went into a global pandemic. And hear me today, there have been some casualties, but we have survived. I believe our greater days are ahead of us. I think we need to keep God first in our lives, and from that position or that foundation, love one another, and so that those who come to our lands, we can be the blessing and the encouragement that I believe we have been ordained by God to be.
Pastor, thank you so much for
Yes, sir.
coming.
My
Folks,
pleasure, sir.
oh man, I
Thank you for
appreciate
having
you
me.
so much. And
Yes, sir.
I need you back here soon.
Yes, sir.
I mean, sooner and so on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Folks, thank you so much for watching our show, The Other Side. Pastor, my goodness, it has been my pleasure having you here with me today, Pastor.
I am
elated. I am elated. Folks, thank you so much for watching this beautiful show, The Other Side. The Other Side, folks. We're giving you both sides of everything. We always look at one side, but we want to give you the other side of life. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. God bless you all.
Yes, sir. It's great. Great, sir.